Hey, I know I've not been the most active online lately. I've been doing a lot of AOA stuff, as you all know. But I thought it was time that I made a video about this. In this video, I'm going to delve into the current state of Shai and the last AOA, and I'm going to discuss them both simultaneously to hopefully maybe change your view on certain things. I hope I can do that. So let's start with the elephant in the room. In this AOA, there have been more Shai teams on NA than ever before. Last year, to my knowledge, there was 4 Shai teams, and the only one to make it to the finals was my team, Ingenium. And this year, all the teams that made it to the finals in the Open were Shai teams. And in the Invitational, there was less Shai teams, but there still definitely was a prevalence of them. Clearly something is going on with Shai that's seen this much popularity in the meta right now. I want to kind of discuss that. I wanted to mainly start off with the Shai CopyPasta that's been going around. You've all seen it. I'm going to put it up on screen right here. I'm just going to quickly take a second to go through it as a reasonable Shai player and kind of discuss my thoughts on it and what I think are the flaws of it. So, going over what the Shai team gets as buffs, for the most part, it's pretty accurate. The 30 AP and 5% special attack damage is a 3-minute cooldown. It's her E-buff. And in general, most of the buffs that it states are a minute long, but the 30 AP needs to be reapplied every 30 seconds. Also for the heals, the cooldown on the heals are wrong. It's 30 seconds, 20 seconds, 1 minute 30. And then also for the 20-second and the 1 minute 30, these are multiple tick skills. They don't heal you for 750 and 700. Try heals for more than that. But overall, that's fine. I don't think it's that off. Then if we go to the non-Shai team, the issue is this. The idea of saying that a debuff is always up, I think is the flaw that I'd have mainly with this. Now for the minus 50% crit rate, minus 26 AP and minus 12% accuracy, and minus 25% movement speed, that is one debuff. It is called Delusive Light, and the Shai has to channel it. The Shai cannot do anything while channeling it, and once it hits you, it lasts for 20 seconds. Now, in theory, if a Shai was to walk at you with this debuff, they would be able to reapply it infinitely. Now, the minus 20% attack speed and minus 30% movement speed, I think is meant to be the minus 20% attacks and movement speed that comes from Sun's Fury. Now, Sun's Fury is not a skill that you just freely cast. A lot of Shais will use it for their main method of gain into buffs. It's a skill that you definitely would use, but it's not always up. I feel like that's very misleading. And the minus 10 DP, that's not always up. That's her Lantern Walk, and no, that's not always up. If they meant the other, like her Boomerang skills, she has to be using a Boomerang, and in order to keep the other debuff up, she's not using her Boomerang. So the issue is what they've done for the non-Shai team is they've taken every possible debuff that a Shai can give you with no cooldown and not put any account into the like action economy of doing these things, right? Because even though you could, in theory, have all these up at the same time on somebody, you're not gonna because you need to actually do them, right? And I feel like this is the primary issue that I think people have when talking about Shai. When Shai is being categorized with a copy pasta like this, we're treating Shai as though it's not a member of the team and it's somebody that cannot be interacted with. I know a lot of Shais wear like a full DP set. I think you're kind of trolling if you're not wearing full DP. But that doesn't mean that there's no interaction to be had here. If you grab a Shai out of Delusive, that skill goes on cooldown, right? It has a 30-second cooldown, and the debuff lasts 20 seconds. The idea that nobody on your team can grab the Shai, I feel like, is a flawed way of looking at the game. And the idea that this is some inevitable force really takes, like, a lot of your ability as the enemy team to deal with a Shai. So this view of an uninteractable force that causes these debuffs is always just going to make the conversation really messy and impossible to have. So, to dispel it, I'm just going to say, these debuffs aren't always up. There's something that the Shai has to apply, and if the Shai is spending her time applying them, she can't always apply all of them. The other aspect is if she's only applying debuffs and buffing her team, she's not really applying much value. Like bongos don't apply a debuff, but you see a lot of Shais use bongos, right? So I think that the conversation to talk about Shai's bounce really needs to come from a place of the ability to counter what Shai is doing. I think that Shai is a very counterable class, one of the most counterable. It's just nobody wants to waste the resources doing it, which I think is a flawed way of playing the game. That's my take. Now, I think the most valid criticism of modern Shai is Misty Haze. Every 3 minutes, you get a minus 25% evasion and minus 25% DR shred that stacks with everything in the game. The issue with this is it appears as a standard debuff. It doesn't have any special look. It's really hard to tell if you've been Misty'd, honestly. And unless you Misty the whole team, you have one person that needs to notice that they've been Misty Hazed, and if they don't notice in time, they just immediately die. Misty Haze in its current state is extraordinarily strong with no counter. The issue with Misty Haze, and why I think it's valid to say that has no counterplay, is because if you get hit with it, you are so much more vulnerable to damage. Whereas I think with Delusive, if one member of your team is the bomb squad and deals with the Shai, I think that's a lot less destructive. I think Misty Haze, in its current iteration, allows you to burst down anyone in the game pretty much. I think that no build can really survive getting Mistied other than kiting fully. So, I'm a Shai player, and I played in the last AOA, so what's my thought on the Shai meta right now, and the current state of Shai? I think that's in a really strong state right now. Of course, I think Misty is as powerful as ever, and I think it's probably way too powerful, as I alluded to earlier. I think that overall, Shai can support a team, and I think that Shai, if she has a team that's willing to work with her, can be extremely effective. In terms of how I built my Shai this year, I think a lot of people in my Digi fight thought that I was wearing like no gear, or that I was a total gearlet, which is partially true. But I think that what people look at is the fact that I'm using Cadres and Libresca over Hesus and a Green Home. I do this because my goal isn't to take no damage on Shai, my goal is to tank damage on Shai. When we have this much healing in our comp, a big thing that will happen is it's okay if I lose HP. That's kind of my philosophy on the game, and that's how I play. So my build is meant to counter high accuracy builds, and it's meant to counter builds that try to sneak in an extra accuracy accessory. Generally, if you are fighting me, I won't take more damage from you if you have an accuracy accessory swap or an accuracy offense swap, and that's kind of the key to my build. I always take damage, but I never take that much damage. I think that if you also rewatch the Digital fight with this in mind, you'll see several points at which Digital fully focuses me and fails to kill me. I think that to me, this is the ideal Shai play, because if I have a team focusing and trying desperately to kill me and being unable to do so, I am interacting with the enemy team and soaking a lot more pressure than if I was unable to take damage, because that damage would be going on my teammates. That's my philosophy on Shai. You can disagree with me, but that's how I chose to play it this year. My experience on Shai has been very unique, and I have been a perma-red Shai. This has forced me to learn a lot of the weirder techs on Shai, a lot of the niche stuff, and a lot of like weirder concepts like we're gonna win. I think that it requires a lot more game knowledge and just ability to use than if you were to not use it. And I think that's an ideal skill in paper. On paper, I think we're going to win is Shai Mastery done right. It's a skill that is not always better, has clear drawbacks, but overall has major benefits that make it worth using. So I think my current issue with We're Gonna Win, though, stems from the idea that on paper, it should have drawbacks, but right now the idea of only misting one target is just so against the current meta of Shai that it, in my opinion, makes the skill kind of bricked. I also think that moving bongos and stuff like that is very good when people understand how Shai works because it catches them off guard. And if you move your bongos, you're a lot more active. But I think that as the last AOA has shown, you can just walk at people with Delusive Light, and that's honestly a valid way of playing Shai that is extremely effective. I don't think that these people are necessarily bad Shais if they're doing that. They just understand that doing this higher level stuff isn't as important as getting Delusive on the enemy. So I guess my issue with Shai right now is that the skill cap is very high on Shai, but there's like almost an artificial, like effective skill ceiling where beyond that point you're not more helpful in a team environment where Shai is supposed to shine, and it just kind of sucks. This is a big claim to make, so I'm going to back it up. I think that there's a lot of niche movement tech, such as camera turning, that is very important in Shai 1v1s or the types of red situations that I find myself getting into. But an issue that I kind of run into is in an AoA environment, is getting away and avoiding CC even that important on Shai? If you're in a full DP set, it doesn't really matter. If you get Misty, it's a different story, but that requires the enemy team to also run a Shai. I think that another thing that I kind of ran into is that using bongos is just better than using 123 to catch people. On the surface, yeah, this makes sense to a lot of people in the community probably. It's really annoying to move through bongos with constant hit stun. But the thing about 123 is it's a very consistent, very targeted skill that requires a lot of active knowledge to use properly. And it will get you more guaranteed catches because people can protect and move through bongos. But the issue that I kind of realized is people don't protect and move through bongos. There's no reason to do that. Stuff like playing active and only putting on delusive on the first tick and then playing active for the rest. That would be a probably better way of playing the class, but when nobody ever grabs you out of delusive, why do that? Just walk at them with delusive. It seems like the best strategy because nobody's ever going to grab you out of it. That's kind of my issue that I started running into with Shai, especially this last day away. So I realized that with a lot less effort, I could do about the same, and having the knowledge that I have on the class, while beneficial, is not nearly as beneficial as if it was on another class. I look at other classes and I look at the difference between somebody that's pretty good at the class and somebody that's amazing at the class, and it makes a world of difference. Like, if you see a Kunoichi that is pretty good, you might see them 1v1 and like win 1v1s, and that's cool. But then, if you see somebody that is insanely good at Kunoichi, they might even 1v3. They can survive in very outclassed environments, and it's amazing. But it doesn't really feel like Shai has that same curve there. A pretty good Shai can do everything that an amazing Shai can do. And the only things that I can think of that an amazing Shai can do better is we're going to win, which isn't always better, and better dodging, better positioning. But all these things don't really matter in an AoA environment where nobody cares to counter Shai. If Shai doesn't have any counters or people willing to like understand how to counter Shai, then it's not worth understanding the higher concepts on Shai. It just isn't. So if you can't tell, I do think Shai is in a really good state right now in terms of her impact on the meta, but I think that right now Shai is very not fun. And I think that that's a core issue that I can get behind. I think it's not necessarily the most fun class to play right now, and I think it's not necessarily the most fun class to interact with right now. So I want to come up with some solutions, but first off, I need to bring up her problems. So let's start off from the top. I think that Misty Haze is a very powerful skill. I think that the ability to give a 25% hit rate to evasion players is a very good skill for the game, and I actually think that that is a healthy interaction. My argument for that is I think that if you hyperstack evasion, it can be very hard to interact, and I think that BDO should always have skills that force interaction in some capacity. I think that the DR shred on Misty Haze is where I start to have an issue. The DR shred punishes a player that builds DR, whether a full tank DR build or just some DR for like some DP, and I don't think that it should. DR is never going to be as tanky as evasion, and DR is always going to have a level of interaction that evasion won't. Evasion reduces your damage to 0 if it's successful, whereas DR reduces your damage. These are never going to be the same, and these are never going to feel the same to fight. I think that evasion having a counter is good, but I do think that Misty Haze definitely needs some nerfs after what this last AoA has shown us. Another potential change for Misty Haze would be giving it a very distinctive icon and also forcing a Shai to full channel it rather than being able to chain it out of delusive light. This would be a major nerf to it, but I also think that would make it very obvious to an opponent And at that point, it would be a more interactive mechanic if they did not want to nerf the DR component of it. So I think that the Delusive Light skill is a very powerful skill, and I think that probably needs some checking up on, at least some nerfs. I think that in general, I'm always going to be for active play. I think that Delusive promotes a very non-active play on Shai. I think that in the current meta and the current state of the game, it makes a lot of sense for a Shai to hold Delusive and walk at an enemy. And this is actually a very effective way of getting this debuff on everyone. I think that a debuff that gives you minus 12% accuracy rate, minus 50% crit rate, minus 25% movement speed, and minus 26 AP is extremely powerful. I think that a valid way of nerfing this skill would be split into multiple skills, so a Shai could not hold it. Now, yes, this might promote a Shai dumping all of her debuffs on you when you go on the ground, like Delusive, Delusive 2, and then Misty Haze, but in general, I don't think that's necessarily a bad way of Shai interacting with debuffs. And Shai has plenty of debuffs in her talent stance, so I don't think it's necessarily bad that she has debuffs. I think that she should just have to think about when she uses them, and in the current state of the game, she doesn't really have to. To be clear, my thoughts on Delusive, though, are that the issue that arises from it currently is that a Shai will hold it and walk at you, which I think is the problematic behavior. So alternatively, you could just nerf the debuff and make it worse. They could get rid of the movement speed. I think that it slowing you is like way too much. They could get rid of the accuracy rate debuff. But I think that that's kind of like why a Shai is casting it. It makes her tankier, and if she has evasion teammates, it makes all of them tankier, which I think is a cool mechanic. I think that the minus AP is like a bit much. I think that the minus crit rate is a bit much. I think that something with the skill needs to be removed. I'm not sure exactly which. I'm not a game developer. And while I present my theories of bounce, these are only theories or ideas coming from a Shai player. A big issue that will always arise is the fact that I am not a game developer and they might know better than me. So I think that a big thing with Shai in general is her interactivity. And I think that something that many people overlook is the fact that a Shai right now, if you ever encounter them, whether it be in open world or in AOS or in AOA, is going to be wearing a full DP set. I think that the issue with this is it makes it really hard to interact with the Shai in terms of damage. I think that also makes the Shai struggle to take damage in place of her team, which is what a tank should do. I think that these combined make it really hard for a Shai to really feel interactive. Because if you damage a Shai, it's because they're mistied, or it's because you built full accuracy, so you're not dealing damage to the people around her. I think that that's really flawed. But I also want to be clear. I think that Shai should be able to build full DP. I just think that she should probably be like other classes and have some penalties to doing so. If you look at a Mystic that builds full DP, the downside that they would run into is that they won't deal any damage. But Shai already, even if she builds full AP, doesn't really deal damage in more than 1v1 environments. So I think that a good way of dealing with Shai would be making her healing tied to her AP. I'm not the first to suggest this, but this would make it so that Shai is incentivized to build AP without forcing them. And I think that that would really help with the interactivity of Shai. If a Shai has to run a hybrid build or else their healing sucks, that might force a lot of Shais out of their comfort zone and force them to learn to survive on a class with low survivability. I think that that would be really good. I think that that would force Shais to be more skillful at the high end. I think that would also make it so that a Shai could be killed. And I think that if a Shai is able to be killed, it gets rid of a lot of the issues that people have with it. I think that the current state of Shai buffs are in a really good state. I think that Shai's Sun, Moon, Stars, Shout to the Sky, Summer Rain, and Time to Shine are all very good things that the Shai should bring to the table. BSR, Max HP, Max Resists, and Attack Speed and Movement Speed, I think all of these are fair things when a Shai is practically giving up damage. If you run a Shai is never going to deal as much damage as another class in her space, so this is required to make her relevant in any 3v3 content. If she can buff her allies to be stronger, then that means that it makes up for the fact that she isn't doing anything other than buffing her allies and debuffing the enemies. I think that if they were to touch her buffs, she would be in a much worse state, and I hope that they do not do that. So, in conclusion, I think that Shai needs some changes. I think that these changes are very important for PA to implement, whether they be my suggestions or new suggestions based on the problems I laid out. I think that Shai definitely needs to be in a better state. Because right now, playing Shai does not feel good, in my opinion. So, I'm at crossroads. I could sit here and hope that Shai gets better, or I could change classes. And honestly, right now, I've already rolled my weapons over to another class. I think that I'm going to try multiple classes and see if I like any of them. I might come back to Shai. But right now, I'm just not enjoying my time on Shai. I feel like in the end game PvP scenarios that I've been in, my impact as a Shai has been very minimal. I'm starting to realize this year especially that a lot of the weird shit I do on Shai, the more complex shit that I do on Shai, is just pointless. I don't even need to do it. And have the same impact. Now, let me be real. I think that being better at Shai definitely increases your impact on the game. But I think that it's very minimal, and I think that that's why a lot of Shais end up rolling off the class eventually. I think that in worse Shai feels terrible. I mean, like, yeah, you literally just int with your little fucking bubble. So a lot of the time, you can do totem mode where you fucking buff people and just sit there and wait for them to come back to buff them more. It's miserable, and I hate it. I think that Shai doesn't really feel like she rewards higher level skill in the current areas that I can see you PvPing in. I know PA's thoughts are Shai's not PvP class, and I've always accepted that, but recently I've just been smacked within the face, it feels like, and I'm realizing, you know, I love this class. I love the little childish gremlin vibes. I love going around killing people on Remminia. It's so funny. Like, oh my god, like a child that is a murderer. It's so goofy. And I love the skateboard. I think that's one of the most fun skills to just play around with. I love the dances. They're so emotive. I love the instruments. I always have. The instruments are great. But despite loving all that, I just feel like I know that I can rise above the ceiling on other classes. And I'm starting to realize more and more that I can't do that on Shai. So, I think I'm gonna take a break. I think my decision is very thought out. I'm not gonna like destroy my DP set or make it myself unable to play on this character anymore. But I think I'm gonna take a break from Shai. And maybe it will be 1 month, maybe it will be 6, maybe it will be a year, maybe it will be 2 years. I don't really know yet. I'm not saying that I'm re-rolling, but I kind of am. I'm just gonna see where it goes. So I'll let you guys know if I pick a class that I enjoy more. Right now I'm just trying my hat around, you know, seeing what feels right. Thank you for watching my dumb video about Shai, and thank you for listening to me rant about it. I really hope Shai gets better, and I hope I can come back to it and enjoy it. But right now, I just don't know. Thanks for watching, guys.